Broadcasts of HIKI NŌ are made possible by the support of viewers like you. Mahalo. And by Bank of Hawaii Foundation, investing in Hawaii's future by promoting collaboration, critical thinking, and other 21st century skills through HIKI NŌ. Kamehameha Schools, empowering Hawaiian keiki to explore, discover, and inspire. ABC Stores, a local company helping to transform education and develop Hawaii's workforce through bold learning initiatives like HIKI NŌ.
This is Marlena Lang, a proud 2018 HIKI NŌ graduate from Kauaʻi High School. I'll be your host during this second of 4 episodes featuring outstanding HIKI NŌ graduates from the amazing class of 2020. Transitioning from high school to college life has always been daunting, but doing so when the world has been turned upside down is truly extraordinary. Let's see how these graduates feel the skills they have learned from HIKI NŌ will help them navigate the treacherous waters ahead. From my Zoom meeting with them in July, here is our second set of HIKI NŌ class of 2020 graduates.
Hi, I'm Anijah-Rose Tomacder. I graduated from Kapaʻa High School on the island of Kauaʻi, and my fall plans are to go to Northern Arizona University and study creative media and film.
Hi, my name is Skylar Masuda. I graduated from Baldwin High School on Maui, and in the fall I plan to go to Pitzer College and study psychology and media.
Aloha, I'm Kallen Wachi from Waimea High School on Kauaʻi, and I will be attending the University of North Dakota in Grand Forks.
So now I'm going to ask you all about the HIKI NŌ process and your experience, but for those of you at home who don't know what the HIKI NŌ process is, this will explain it.
Most of my HIKI NŌ experience was actually in competing in the fall challenges, which is the normal HIKI NŌ process but just sped up over 4 days. My first challenge that I completed was in my junior year, and at the very beginning our first story fell through and we ended up at one of our Maui swap meets with all of our equipment in the rain and no one to shoot. So we ended up walking around and just asking all of the vendors like what their story was, and we stumbled upon just the most wonderful story about a woman named Auntie Leah who runs her own bread shop, and it was just so moving to have no idea what we were going to do and then stumble into just this really human and gorgeous story along the way. And she had a story about how her great-grandmother had created this banana bread recipe and she had been using this for years. Auntie Leah ended up using that recipe to support her family after she had cancer. And we didn't know any of that when we just walked up to her banana bread truck and asked her what her story was. And she was so kind to us, and that process really just made me appreciate the beauty of broadcast media because it's all centered on human personal stories.
I find it interesting that food is what ended up saving us.
In order to provide for her children, Malia started baking banana bread using her grandmother's over 100-year-old family recipe.
She would have me like, hey Malia, go get me this and measure this, and and so she taught me how to bake in that way, and I could see that she loved it so much that I loved it.
Looking into the future with hope, Malia and her family continue their daily lives, not letting a little rain stop them. This is Skylar Masuda from HP Baldwin High School for HIKI NŌ.
Well, I started back in Chiefs Kamakahela Middle School, so I've been doing it for six years, and I would say it's a pretty fun journey since then. I would say my most memorable story would be about my junior ROTC instructor, Major Victor Aguilar. It was for the Winter Challenge of 2019, and I was on my own. It was so I had 4 days to shoot, write, and edit the story, and it was fun. The most difficult part was definitely not having a person on your side to, look after you, not being, someone to say, hey, do you know if you can call this person for the interview? Like, you're on your own, and it's difficult. And at the same time, you learn how to be a more critical thinker, how to be more proactive in the production phases, how to have a good vision of what your story can become.
The goal of the program was to pattern it after the ROTC program that I was in, where I felt at home with the other students, where I felt that we were able to do well, to succeed, to be taught life skills. And so I wanted to do the same thing for our students here at Waimea.
Retired Army Major Victor Aguilar started the junior ROTC program at Waimea High School 25 years ago, and since then has created a lifelong legacy of success in the Westside community.
The buck stops here. As long as you don't lose sight of your goals and you keep pursuing them, you will achieve. So that's the hallmark of success.
This is Kallen Wachi from Waimea High School for HIKI NŌ.
Now, Anijah, can you tell us about your HIKI NŌ experience and a specific story of yours that you're really proud of?
Yes. So my first story was last year, and that was the story on the Kauaʻi Resilience Program and how they're trying to reduce the suicide rates on Kauaʻi. That story actually was just given to us, and it was a random selection, so we didn't really choose it. But when we got the story and we were reading into it, it really made us realize, like, there's something actually going on that, like, there's not a lot of light shed on. Once our draft came out, it wasn't the best. So when we went through the whole process of getting advice from our advisor, Chris Sandro, and I was the oldest, so it was a lot of pressure for me to, lead the group, but it really pushed me to lead and, listen to everybody's their input and trying to decide what goes where in the script or all the editing. It was hectic at one point, but we talked it through as a team, and that really pushed us forward to get approved, and that led us to being aired on PBS, so it was a great experience.
Rolling out their community action plan, the project strives to help our young people thrive.
There was an important study that was done on Kauaʻi many years ago that discovered that no matter how hard and how challenging a life that a child may have, if they have one caring adult, it makes all the difference and they can be resilient. So our goal is to ask everybody on Kauaʻi to help listen to our young people, to help do things with them, to include them in their life so that everyone can feel connected and feel happier and more resilient.
In my sophomore year, I joined our digital media program and I started doing work with HIKI NŌ, and all of a sudden it clicked into place, oh yeah, I like doing this and I wanted to do this for the rest of my life. So that was so important, and especially for me, for someone who it took a lot of energy and time to reignite that in myself, feel like I had that voice in the community, but also that I was able to make something so wonderful and give so many stories a platform, and give my own story a platform. I did my own reflections and stuff. Now I'm going into my college with a double major or second interest in media.
I think, especially in our society, regardless if it was 200 years ago or 2020, we've always had that young people in many lights never really had a voice. We always thought this is the world we live in, and we can't change that because there are people out there older than us, more wiser than us, telling us what is right and what is wrong, or what is given. And so HIKI NŌ is allowing us to be empowered to tell stories, to break through those barriers. We're young, we may not be as wise as many, but we do have a voice.
It's important to me that HIKI NŌ gave me and my fellow students the platform because we have something to put on our resume to start off our actual career. You know, somebody can go through the links that's where we're headed, digital resumes. And with video, it's easy. You can just link it in, make it look professional, and that's where I started. That's the first thing I did. The first video I worked on with Kauaʻi Resilience Project, I put in that link into my resume, and now it's full with 4 of them. So I'm so excited for that. And I think that really boosts my confidence and getting into the school I wanted to get into because of broadcasting, you know, and getting that future job and maybe adding more links, most likely. So that's the platform, and that's the platform HIKI NŌ gave me, and I used it to get into college. And I definitely will keep using those links because I was taught a lot in the only 3 years I was in a part of HIKI NŌ. So, yeah.
I think it's a chance to look at ourselves in the mirror.
And I'm speaking to you from my humble home in Kalihi.
And in the end, this whole experience has made me appreciate my parents just a little more.
And no one else will have a story like mine to tell.
Being asked to give a reflection and to talk about like what it was really like being a senior, I didn't really want to hold back. I wanted to say like, hey, reach out to a senior in life because they may be like really struggling with this. And it was hard to do, to like go through that process, but it's so important that HIKI NŌ is giving students these voices, especially in times of crisis, because this is when student voices are going to matter the most.
Hi, I'm Skylar Masuda from HP Baldwin High School, speaking to you from my home. As a senior, I'm feeling a deep lack of closure, academically and socially. I've been preparing to move off island and attend college, and this final quarter is meant to be a period of transition. Now, not only is our graduation ceremony canceled, but I'm missing out on so much precious time with my friends and classmates. It's hard not to feel selfish when we're mourning these small experiences and not people, but it feels good to talk about this with other seniors. The best we can do is treat ourselves with understanding and kindness, and know that sadness isn't selfish, it's natural. To lift my spirits, I've been rewatching Scooby-Doo with my family, and I've been trying to stay involved with school activities through video calls and social media.
I wasn't surprised. When I found out that HIKI NŌ was actually reaching out to the students about their stories, I wasn't really surprised. This is a great opportunity. I think, especially during this time, we were really getting like the perspectives of, you know, health officials and, you know, the general public, but not really the young person perspective, the adolescent perspective. You know, this is a big growing time for us, you know, not only academically, professionally, and physically. And I'm not surprised for the fact that we were able to get our voices heard, because in the end, that's what the program is really about, is to make our voices heard.
Can you please tell us and those at home about how your senior year was affected by COVID, how it makes you feel, how your graduation was due to COVID, and just how do you feel about being a senior during this time? So, Kallen, you want to start?
Graduation was such a bittersweet time for especially for Waimea, because we're such a small community, and so for us it's a big thing. We make graduation as big as, you know, homecoming, Waimea Town Celebration. It's one of those big events for the West Side community. And so for us not to have that, with all the banners and the signs and the air horns and everything, it was pretty sad. But what our school did was, instead of a drive-through graduation or a virtual graduation, they did a drive-in graduation. And it really reflected of how the community of Waimea really cares about the school community, of how everyone came together, from the faculty, staff, administration, community leaders, Westside businesses. They all came together to give us something really special.
Yeah, so my experience was very different than most people's senior year, mostly because, like, our last day of school, we didn't know that was going to be our last day of school. Like, we left for spring break and we thought we were going to be gone only a week. Maybe we thought it would be 2 weeks gone, but we just assumed that we would be back on campus at some point. So, like, after school, we got coffee and everything. We were like, it's just going to be spring break now, just relaxing and getting to be with our friends. And then lockdown started. And it wasn't keeping in contact with the students that was, like, the biggest problem. Because, like, I have friends, and we all have group chats all the time, like, even during school. Like, we had plenty of ways to communicate with each other. But there was, like, so many, like, parts of my life that I didn't realize were entirely based at school. Like, I took part in a lot of clubs and a lot of after-school activities, and then all of a sudden, all of those things just kind of dropped.
Like everyone else, the last day before spring break nobody knew. Like, it was crazy because I didn't really think of it because I was planning on hanging out with friends during spring break. And when lockdown happened, it was one of those things where you're, like, shocked. And then prom was canceled. I've never been to prom, so I was waiting for my senior year to be, like, the year, But, yeah, after that was canceled, it was pretty heartbreaking. I did not take it well because I had a prom dress ready. I was actually going to go to Kauaʻi High's prom because it was Gatsby themed, and and I had a dress. It was so pretty, but it's okay. We can use it for Halloween or something. We will find a new use to that dress, I promise. But it was definitely heartbreaking. With graduation, it's pretty similar to Kallen's. We had a drive-in. And we had different names for each group. There was like 22 or 26 students in each group. It was A, B, C. I was group J. And once our group was announced, we would line up 6 feet apart. And then we'd be able to take off our mask once we're right next to the stage. Take it off. Go up the stage, get our diploma, wave at the cameras and our parents, and then we'd go down the steps, and then we'd put back on our mask and receive, like, gifts from different teachers. I seen my former counselor that I didn't see for a year because she moved to North Carolina, I believe, and I teared up. I was so emotional. It was crazy because we didn't expect to see her, And then I seen Mr. Sandro, my advisor, with the camera, and he was just smiling, tears in his eyes. I was like, oh, that is my media dad right there. It was emotional. It was a lot of emotion, and then we got to walk back to our parents, and that's when a lot of honking started. So my parents had so much fun with that. They were honking for students they didn't even know. But yeah, it was definitely an experience to remember, and I think our class will definitely tell great stories about it.
Kallen, can you tell us about your college plans and how COVID has affected them, if it has at all, and what you plan on doing this fall?
I'll be attending the University of North Dakota in Grand Forks. Yep, very cold place. And I'll be majoring in commercial aviation. And this quarantine definitely gave me the time actually to think about really what I wanted to do in life. And I was originally supposed to go to the Ohio State University with the naval ROTC, and I decided not to take it. And I realized, from this quarantine, how much life your family, and everything that you hold dear to is very important, and you could lose that in a heartbeat, especially during a pandemic like this. And I didn't want to have I would like to serve my country, but at the same time I couldn't bear the fact that I didn't want to leave my family behind. And I really got to think about really what I wanted to do in life. And self-isolation, right? We were able to do that. We were able to, think hours on end about, what do I want to do? What do I want to pursue? What do I want to do? And so the decision to go to UND was very last minute, actually. I think I submitted the deposit fee, I think like a week before the deadline. And so, cutting it close.
In the fall, I will be going to Northern Arizona University. I will be dorming. And they emailed us months ahead. They were planning, they were making sure that everything was set. My professor, he emailed all his students saying that there was supposed to be 90 students in a class, but there's about 30, I believe. So they're trying to cut it down as small as possible, just for social distancing reasons. Another thing that they did was they're just making sure that they have a poll. If you want to study online or do you want to be in class. I'm hands-on, so I'm going to be in class. But hopefully as things settle down, it eventually gets easier for us. But it definitely affects the school life, because you're not going to see as many people out, and it'll be hectic for the first few weeks, but we gotta adapt.
Yeah, so I was originally planning on going to campus. I'm attending Pitzer College in the fall. And when they announced that we wouldn't be going back to campus and that the first semester would be online, I considered deferring, because a lot of the first year experience is based on living in the dorms, and it's a social justice school, and it's all about environmental sustainability. So the dorms are all based on this idea that everyone can come in and out and be living in a space that has almost zero ecological impact. And it's a really important part of the school experience to be able to have these one-on-one conversations with people. But they actually sent out an email that kind of changed my mind, because as I was considering deferring and waiting another year, they sent an email that basically said, the best time to go to a social justice-based school is now. This is going to be the most important time that you ever spend at a college that's so focused on environmental sustainability, but also equity and access to care across the board.
What are your hopes for the world, the community, and yourself during and after this pandemic?
I really hope that we find a middle ground somewhere, hopefully sooner than later, because it's kind of hectic right now with the different political views. And I think having a common ground and just coming together would benefit all. And with that, everybody can be safe and not spread.
In my opinion, I think that this was really good in developing empathy in the long run. It's there's so many awful things happening to so many people, but living in a world where you expect that now, it forces you to think about, well, what has someone been through? Or more importantly, what could I have done to prevent that? It's this idea of being responsible for your own actions and the actions of your community. And I think that for a bit there's going to be a lot of anger floating around about whose fault it was, or how we could have stopped it. But I think in the very long term, years and years from now, we're going to remember it as a time where we were developing empathy with each other and where we were understanding how we can behave in crises.
I think during a time of crisis, it's very important to unite as one person and not be politically divided, to be socially divided, to always be there for your neighbors, always be there for your family, and in the end, not think about all of the politics and the panic aside from it. We can accomplish anything as long as we work together as a team, as one community, as one state, one country.
So if you could all summarize your HIKI NŌ experience for me, tell me how you feel about your HIKI NŌ experience overall. So we'll start with Anijah.
Overall, my HIKI NŌ experience has taught me a lot, actually, and it pertains to different classes, like organization. I learned how to deal with stressful situations. I do include a lot of my organization with other classes, taking notes. Very thankful for my skills I learned. A lot of organization, teamwork, and collaboration was the main things that I took from going through the challenges and just coming up with a story to tell.
Doing the HIKI NŌ challenges forced me to think on my feet, but it also allowed me to have that confidence as a group leader and as a filmmaker to make the choices that I need to make in a very short time period. And that really helped me grow as someone, as a filmmaker, but also as a person. And it's helped me in every single aspect of my life. People say that about so many things, but truly, it's changed the way that I think about myself and the way that I think about my community.
I think in the end, this is one of the most rewarding and one of the most influential things I've done within my academic career. I've learned how to become a critical thinker, and more importantly, I learned how to become a storyteller.
Broadcasts of HIKI NŌ are made possible by the support of viewers like you. Mahalo, and by Bank of Hawaii Foundation, investing in Hawaii's future by promoting collaboration, critical thinking, and other 21st century skills through HIKI NŌ. Kamehameha Schools, empowering Hawaiian keiki to explore, discover, and inspire. ABC Stores, a local company helping to transform education and develop Hawaii's workforce through bold learning initiatives like HIKI NŌ.